What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to my channel, The Real Estate Real. I'm your host, Tyler, and today what I want to talk to you guys about is the pros and cons of living in Sacramento. I've lived in Sacramento for pretty much my whole life. I grew up here, I played sports here, I was born and raised here. I went to Sheldon High School, and I went to a little bit of community college here before I ended up going to San Jose City and playing community college and playing football over there. So, the first thing I do want to say about Sacramento before I get into the pros and cons of it is I think that is a great family living environment, regardless of what I say on here, because this is pretty much from the stats and everything that I've seen around, besides what I feel personally. So, there is going to be a little bit of crime statistics on here, but the crime isn't huge. I think that it is a great place to raise your children for educational standpoint, as well as if you want them in any type of extracurricular activities such as sports. The arts are great out here too, and Sacramento is constantly growing and building, so why not come out here and at least visit if you're going to come out here, or come out here and find a space for you guys, and that's what we can do for you. So let's jump right into it, the pros and cons of living in Sacramento. The first thing that I want to talk about is the pros of living in Sacramento. This is personally all for me too, so the first thing that I want to talk about is the diversity in Sacramento. I think the diversity in Sacramento is a huge pro to living in Sacramento. Sacramento has a huge melting pot of people. Doesn't matter if it's white, black, Hispanic, Arabic, or Indian. All over, you're going to learn how to speak, really understand different cultures, which is great. Different diversities of cultures, which is great. And maybe there's a lot of different cultures around here that speak different languages too. So maybe perhaps you pick up a language down the road. But I think that the diversity in Sacramento is so great is because you get to experience what it's like to live obviously around different cultures and get an idea of how those cultures operate and what the norms are for those cultures, especially the respect factor in those cultures and how you need to deal with maybe other people, other ethnicities, different generations of people as well. So I think that the diversity in Sacramento gives you a huge ground so that you feel pretty much, I feel pretty much comfortable anywhere at all times. So my number one is probably the diversity in Sacramento is a huge thing, and I think it's a great thing around the areas too. It's continuing to grow as well, so there will continue to be diversity in Sacramento and all those things. So that's the first thing I do want to touch upon is the diversity in Sacramento. The second thing I do want to touch about is that there's a lot to do in Sacramento. Sacramento is great. There's huge amounts of things to do here. There's a ton of things to do inside Sacramento and outside Sacramento. Here in Sacramento, there's always something to do. There's the nightlife of Sacramento, so if you're 21 and older, you'll have the opportunity to do things, as well as if you lived in Sacramento for a while, there's always things that you could do, like there's hiking around Sacramento. There's great areas to hike around Sacramento. There's also different events that happen in Sacramento. So here in Sacramento, we have amphitheater outside of Sacramento, which is in Yuba. We also have the Golden One Center, which you could see, different events and shows like that, concerts and things. But even on the weekends, every Saturday, they have a Midtown Farmers Market, so that you can go down there and get an idea of what it's like. Sacramento is the farm to fork capital, so we do have a huge amount of farmland here and a huge amount of farmers that keep trying to grow and help the opportunity of the basis around it, which is really nice because it keeps it kind of organic as well. So there's also pop-up shops around, so if you're feeling artsy or you want to, go out and see the different cultures in Sacramento, you can go out and see the arts of Sacramento. Whatever pop-up shops they decide to sell around there, it could be a clothing brand or it could be something else, of course. But like I said, a ton to do in Sacramento. And that's definitely not to touch upon the outside areas of Sacramento as well. The outside areas of Sacramento are great because we have so much to do around here. You can go down to the Bay Area where, of course, 2 hours, 2.5 hours away, depending on traffic, of course, is Oakland or San Francisco. And don't get it confused like there isn't anything to do in Oakland, because there's a huge amount of arts in Oakland and a huge amount of, there's different museums over there as well. And then in San Francisco, of course, you have a ton to do, a ton of things to do. They have a great city themselves. It's actually surprisingly ranked pretty high on one of the best places to live. I say surprisingly because it's just so compacted to me. Out here in Sacramento, you have a bunch of space as well. But it's always nice to go down there. You could, during Christmas, there's a great time. You could go ice skating in Union Square, or you could do anything else like that. We also have Tahoe. Unfortunately, there was a lot of fires up towards Tahoe this year during the summertime. But there's still going to be snow up in Tahoe, so during the winter times you could go over there and you could snowboard, or you could just go out there, enjoy yourself at a cabin, and do stuff with the family as well. So San Francisco, Lake Tahoe, Silicon Valley is pretty close too. So if you ever have to do anything tech or get around a bunch of tech people, I mean, you can get around some things that you're interested in. Anywhere around here in Sacramento or around California. California is pretty big, but here in Sacramento, we are the capital, so we have a ton of things around us too. So that's number two. The areas, the areas you could do, the things that you could do in and out of Sacramento is number two for me. Number three has to be the opportunity. The opportunities in Sacramento are great. We're continuously expanding. That's why I've had the opportunity to do so many things that I've done. I've went to a countless number of jobs till I ended up here as a real estate agent in Sacramento. But the growth in the job market over the next 10 years is expected to be 34.8, and the national average is 33%. So we're a little bit higher than the national average towards growth, but we do have things like Golden One Center over here, which has just been built. Even though we've had the Kings already, there's a ton of stuff being built around Golden One Center, and the constant amount of people coming over here from the Bay Areas and other things like that also contribute to the growth, because when obviously more people migrate to your area, you're going to have contribute and make more opportunity for jobs as well. So the opportunity for jobs out here is super high. You can do anything you pretty much want. You can do freelance because there's enough people, like I said earlier. If you want to start a t-shirt business, you could literally go out to any of the markets or anything and start a pop-up shop. There's different events all over Sacramento that are going to help you contribute to the growth for yourself, as well as the politics around here, and there's a whole bunch of other things that you could do, not to mention become a lawyer or anything else like that. Like I said, it is the capital of California, so there is not a lack of things to do over here, and you just have to keep yourself open-minded when you do move over here, or if you start to live over here, because you're going to have plenty of opportunity and plenty of areas where you could do pretty much what you want. You just have to pretty much hone in and clamp down and start doing what you want and decisively say, I'm going to do this, because I will say that there is a lot of so-called competition in Sacramento as well. There's just a lot of people living around you, but like I said, the growth in Sacramento is huge, and the growth for Sacramento is huge, and if you come here yourself, or if you already live here, you have a huge opportunity to grow in your business that you want to start or do. So those are the three pros of Sacramento. Now I kind of want to get into the cons of Sacramento, but I just don't want you to take this too hard, because I mean, all the places that are bigger cities, all places that are bigger cities pretty much have these cons, and it's hard to get away from some of these things. So the first con that I do have in Sacramento is the traffic and the driving. Sacramento drivers ranked amongst the worst in the United States. I think they were like around top 5, but not to mention there always is some construction or something going on to the road. But I can't really tell you why the traffic and the driving is so bad. Just like any other time, during the mornings and during the, mid-afternoon around 5 or 6, traffic does get really bad and backed up around certain areas. But overall, they're trying to expand the freeways. That's probably why there's always traffic going on. They're always trying to expand or do something to the freeways, which also it offsets it sometimes, I should say. Because sometimes there will be a lot of traffic and sometimes there won't be any traffic at all. So the driving and the traffic in Sacramento, I can't touch upon why the driver is so bad. Like I said, I'm born and raised in Sacramento, so apparently I do contribute to the statistic, right, of bad drivers, but who knows, I may or may not. But like I said, the driving in Sacramento is pretty bad. There's often times when people are just going extremely slow, as well as we have a ton of people out here, so there's going to be a lot of people on their cell phones sometimes and texting and doing things of that nature, which they shouldn't obviously be doing, but people do it anyway. So the traffic and the driving is pretty bad out here. I just have to say that. Another thing I want to touch on, number 2 for the cons of living in Sacramento, is the crime. The crime in Sacramento is 65% higher than the national average. I came upon that when I was searching up the crime in Sacramento. It's obviously not as bad as other places, but I don't hear a ton about people getting killed out here unless it's in certain areas. Um, Oak Park used to be pretty bad. I hear it's getting a little better now. The Meadowview type of areas, McFlorin Road, things like that. Those are overall the worst areas in Sacramento. But you know, Sacramento, there is crime that happens in Sacramento during the nights and stuff like that when you're out and about. I have seen my fair share of violence in Sacramento, fights and things like that after clubs. I don't know why people choose to, choose violence and other things like that, but hopefully the crime statistic starts to drop a little bit. Like I said, there is a bit of crime in Sacramento. I don't see a huge amount of robberies and burglaries. I don't see a huge amount of those or a huge amount of murder either. Obviously, those are like the things you want to watch out for. But I do hear a fair share amount of people's windows getting broken and things like that. I know a few friends that windows have been broken just sitting inside, their car sitting outside their house. I did have a car stolen right by Calvine Road. My Honda was stolen while it was sitting outside of somebody's house. So things do happen in Sacramento. So I'm not saying that we're an angel city or anything like that. But just watch out for the crime if you do come here. It's not the worst place in the world, like I said. It's not Rio de Janeiro, the murder capital of the world, or anything like that. But our crime here is fairly high compared to the national average. So that's one thing I had to put on the list. Number 2 was crime. Number 3 that we have goes into everything. It is because the reason of everything going on. Number 3 is the cost of living. Cost of living is always on the rise. I actually learned that in California, landlords have the opportunity to where they could actually increase the rent by almost 10% a month, but they cannot exceed 10% a month. So that's a huge amount, and lately the rent's been rising, the cost of living's been rising, and the cost of the housing market over the past couple months, besides September, has been rising because there's people migrating over from the Bay Areas, and things like that are going to cause pretty much the rise in other areas. So the cost of living is exceptionally high right now, it seems like, in Sacramento. It's been on the rise. More people have been allowed to work remote at their jobs, so basically they're migrating over here from the Bay Area and things like that. So we have had our fair share of people migrating from the Bay Area, where those people are coming over and they're willing to pay pretty much cash. Some of those people are willing to pay pretty much cash for the homes right now and things like that. So the cost of living is a huge expense in Sacramento. I know with the minimum wage, I think it's maybe $13 or $14 out here now. It's still even hard to get into a 2-bedroom apartment around here. A 2-bedroom home is usually around $2,000, so I would say that's pretty high compared to the average amongst the United States. Of course, big city living or city living in general, the cost of living is always pretty high. So that's one thing I didn't want to put on the list. So just to go over the pros were diversity. The diversity in Sacramento is a great thing. The second thing was all there is to do in Sacramento. The third was the opportunities you have here in Sacramento. Those are all great things. And then the cons of living in Sacramento were the traffic and the driving, the crime rate, and the cost of living. So I hope this gave you a general idea of what Sacramento is kind of like and how it's shaped. But if you do have more comments below. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you do live in Sacramento, comment what you think one of the best or worst things is out here in Sacramento. And thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in today. I appreciate you guys, and I hope you have a wonderful day whenever you're watching this, of course. And we'll see each other later.